Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Good afternoon, Ollie.
Hello, Tanvi. It's 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. in Central Europe. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll start in Bangladesh. We'll hear about UK police remaining on high alert and details of a Hollywood premiere here in London. First, the headlines.
Sheikh Hasina will return to Bangladesh if the interim government decides to hold an election, informs her son. India constitutes a committee to monitor the situation on the Indo-Bangladesh border. India is committed to bring back the stranded 69 nationals recruited into the Russian army, informs Dr. S. Jaishankar to Parliament, adds the government takes the issue of trafficking very seriously. And at least 10 killed in Russian strike on a supermarket in eastern Ukraine. Russia moving troops, heavy weapons to Kursk region. So with the ongoing developments in a neighbouring nation of India, Bangladesh, the Indian government constituted a committee to monitor the current situation on the Indo-Bangladesh border. The committee will maintain communication channels with their counterpart authorities in Bangladesh to ensure the safety and security of Indian nationals, Hindus and other minority communities living there. The committee will be headed by the ADG, Border Security Force, Eastern Command. Former Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son Sajib Wazid Joy has assured that Sheikh Hasina will return to the country when the new interim government decides to hold elections, though her participation in the elections has not been confirmed. Hasina was forced to resign as Prime Minister and left the country on Monday after weeks of violent protests that killed many. Now, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus was sworn in as the chief advisor of Bangladesh on Thursday. Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh Pranay Verma attended the swearing-in ceremony. Along with other foreign diplomats and guests, Indian High Commissioner was formally invited to the event. Yunus, along with a 16-member advisory council, was sworn in by President Mohammad Shahabuddin. The new government was formed 3 days after Sheikh Hasina's resignation. So, 2 student leaders joined Muhammad Yunus's interim government as they took oath on Thursday. Both university students were part of the protests that forced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign. These students, named Nahid Islam and Asif Mahmood, are now part of Yunus's interim administration. So these are going to be the new faces of Bangladesh politics. Now, a day after taking oath as the chief advisor, Muhammad Yunus on Friday laid wreath at the memorial built to honour the martyrs of Bangladesh's liberation war in 1971. The new chief, along with other members of the administration, paid tribute to Bangladesh's independence heroes. After taking charge, Yunus aims to restore peace in the country and prepare for new elections. On to London now. Anti-immigration protests and the subsequent anti-racism rallies have caused great unrest across the UK for 2 weeks now. The British government forecasts more protests in the coming few days. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, so first major crisis of Keir Starmer's government?
I think that's exactly right, Tanvi. Keir Starmer will be well aware that this is the first crisis he's had to deal with since becoming the UK's Prime Minister, and so his response is crucial really to his early days of his premiership. What we've been seeing in the last 48 hours or so is continuing movement through the judicial system of some of those people involved in some of the rioting, and Keir Starmer believes that that will have a crucial deterrent effect in the days ahead to try and stop people getting involved in rioting who might otherwise have been encouraged to do so. The disorder has been carried out by what Keir Starmer describes as far-right thugs. A series of towns and cities have been affected at times. At times we've also seen hotels housing asylum seekers pelted with rocks as well. British police are saying there is a danger that further unrest and disorder could take place over the course of this weekend. The British government also says it would consider changes to the upcoming Online Safety Act designed to regulate social media companies, because the government believes that some of this unrest has been fueled by misinformation circulating online. Now, police have also released some video footage from some of the rioting that we've seen since the attacks in Southport over a week ago now. It's body cam footage and shows some of what police have been having to deal with when they've come into contact with some of the rioters in English towns and cities. Now we're joined by DD India's John Beaver, who is in Bristol, for more on this. And John, the Prime Minister's been talking in the last hour or so, hasn't he? What's he been saying?
Well, he's really been reiterating what we've heard from him over the last 24 hours or so, and that was, as you point out, that the police remain on high alert. That, I think, is the key message that Keir Starmer is keen to get across ahead of any potential disorder this weekend. He's also been talking, as you mentioned, about this swift sentencing, the fact that we now have people in prison who were guilty of offences committed maybe a week ago or just over a week ago, and they already find themselves behind bars. The Prime Minister very keen to point out that that works as a very good deterrent for anyone who might get involved in any disorder over the weekend. I think as well, as you mentioned, what we've heard about social media is interesting as well, and the fact that the Prime Minister has said that once the immediate challenges to disorder and safety are dealt with, that they have promised to look again at how social media is regulated and how it operates here in the UK. There was a huge amount of misinformation and disinformation as well, deliberate wrong information being spread by social media, starting off with the 3 girls that were killed in Southport last week and the identity of the suspect. It was reported that he was a Muslim migrant who had recently arrived in the UK, and that turned out not to be true, and he was actually born here. But the Prime Minister very keen to look at that. We've heard from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, as well. He said that the Online Safety Act, these regulations not due to come into force until next year, he said that they weren't fit for purpose. He said that the way that algorithms work, it leads to misinformation and deliberate disinformation that can spread very quickly. So expect that to be a key theme that's looked at in the coming days. Interestingly as well, the last thing that Keir Starmer mentioned, he was asked about the football this weekend, the return of the Football League starting again, and the challenges that posed at a time that the police are already stretched. But Keir Starmer said the police were able to deal with that and the extra policing demands that come from hosting football matches as well. But he said that the focus has to be absolutely solely on the safety and security of the communities of the UK.
John Beaver, thank you. Now, a 3rd teenager has been arrested in connection with a foiled attack on now cancelled Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna. Austria's Interior Minister says investigations are scrutinising the networks of the suspects, and investigators are evaluating physical and electronic evidence. The 19-year-old main suspect and a 17-year-old were arrested on Tuesday. A 15-year-old was also interrogated but was not arrested at the time. Officials say no additional suspects are being sought. The Austrian Chancellor says the 19-year-old teenager had planned to carry out a suicide attack that would have caused a bloodbath and had previously vowed loyalty to the Islamic State group.
The main suspect admitted that together with two accomplices, he wanted to carry out a suicide attack. For that, he acquired weapons and explosives and he carried out other preparations. It is indeed unimaginable to think what immeasurable damage would have been done had the plan succeeded.
In the latest on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, multiple attacks are being reported on both sides. Russian artillery has hit a supermarket in an eastern Ukrainian town, killing at least 10 and injuring more. The attack comes after Ukrainian military attacked a Russian military airfield in the Lipetsk region of southern Russia, damaging guided bomb stockpiles. A state of emergency was declared in the Lipetsk municipal district. 9 people injured there and power supply disrupted. In Kursk region, fighting is ongoing close to the Kursk nuclear plant. Moscow's been transferring extra resources in response to a Ukrainian incursion, which began this week. Israel's agreed to send negotiators to proposed talks penciled in for the 15th of August in Doha or Cairo. Hamas has not immediately responded. In the latest attempt to end the conflict in Gaza, the US, Egypt and Qatar have called on Israel and Hamas to resume negotiations over a ceasefire and hostage release deal without delay. The 3 countries which have been trying to mediate a deal said the talks could take place either in Doha or Cairo. The leaders are offering to present a final bridging proposal to resolve what are quite a few remaining issues. The renewed diplomatic push will be seen as an attempt to stop regional conflict from spiralling out of control. That's after the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated last week. Iran blames Israel and has vowed a response. Israel has not commented directly on that killing. Meanwhile, recent polling suggests Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could be regaining popularity over his rival Benny Gantz. A Lazar research poll shows 42% of respondents saying Netanyahu's better suited to be Prime Minister, compared with 40% picking Gantz. Netanyahu has faced criticism from many Israelis during the conflict in Gaza for failing to reach a ceasefire and the release of hostages. And American actress and entrepreneur Blake Lively has attended the London premiere of the film It Ends With Us. Lively's set to make her debut as a producer in It Ends With Us and will also star in the film as its lead. The premiere was attended by actress Isabella Ferrer, who plays a younger version of Lively's character in the film. It Ends With Us is based on the Colleen Hoover best-selling novel of the same name.
I want to see you again.
And because this bulletin ends with you, Tanvi, back to you.
Thank you, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining us from London. You're watching Did India Global, still to come on the show. Anti-government protests return to streets in Kenya. Police fires tear gas and live ammunition to disperse protesters. And India's President Draupadi Murmu addresses the Indian diaspora in New Zealand, hails their contribution in ties between the two countries. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Did India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to New Delhi now. Speaking about the Indian nationals recruited in the Russian army in the lower house of Indian Parliament, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reiterated that under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India is committed to bring back the stranded 69 nationals from Russia.
What is the status of discussions between us and the Russian government? I think it would be fair to say that after the Prime Minister himself has taken up the matter with the Russian President, and the Russian President has himself given an assurance, we should not jump the gun and say the Russians are not serious on this matter. I think it is important to hold the Russian government to their word. It is for us most important. We are not here to score points or to enter into debates. We are here to get back those 69 people, because Indian citizens should not be serving in the army of foreign countries.
The minister said that the trafficking issue is being handled by India's Central Bureau of Investigation, and the government is taking this issue very seriously.
People who are involved in the trafficking, sir, we will have to go by what the CBI inquiry has told us, because that is evidence, that is what is legally permissible. We have 19 people, including, sir, some of the names that the Honourable member had referred to. In each case, the inquiries are going on. In many cases, the prosecution is going on. So I can assure the Honourable member through you, sir, that we take this very, very seriously.
So, External Affairs Minister said that out of the 91 Indian nationals who were falsely recruited into the Russian army, 8 have died while in service with the Russian armed forces.
There are, as I said, sir, 8 Indian nationals who unfortunately died while in service with the Russian armed forces. 4 of them, their mortal remains have been sent to India with the payment made by the Indian Community Welfare Fund.
Moving on now, after the successful completion of official engagements in New Zealand's capital, Wellington, India's President Draupadi Murmu addressed the members of the Indian community in Auckland on Friday. Speaking at the event, President Murmu said that India is proud of its diaspora in New Zealand, adding that the Indian diaspora is seen as an important contributor towards developed India. The President also announced that India will soon be opening a consulate in Auckland, noting that the consulate will help in further strengthening India-New Zealand relations and assisting the diaspora.
कि हम जल्द ही ऑकलैंड में एक कॉन्सुलेट खुलेंगे। जिसका उद्देश्य यहाँ बसे हमारे प्रवासी भारतीयों की लंबे समय से चली आ रही मांग को पूरा करना है। मुझे विश्वास है कि ये न्यूजीलैंड के साथ हमारे डिप्लोमेटिक संबंधों को और बढ़ाने में प्रमुख भूमिका निभाएगा।
On to Africa now. Kenyan police forces fired tear gas at protesters in Nairobi, with the youth-led crowds pushing for President William Ruto to resign. The protests were going on as President Ruto's new cabinet was being sworn in. DD India's Daniel Kijo brings us this report.
Police in Kenya engaged in running battles with demonstrators in the capital, Nairobi. The protests were led by Gen Z and groups of activists calling on President Ruto to step down. Dubbed the Nane Nane March, the protests had businesses in the city closed for most of the day. Public transport was at a standstill due to police roadblocks attempting to stop access to the central business district. The battles between protesters and the police went on as the new cabinet was being sworn in. The new executive includes 4 politicians nominated from the opposition. The youth-led protests have forced the president to withdraw planned additional taxes and dissolve his old cabinet. President Ruto has urged the protesters to refrain from unlawful behavior, asking them to wait for the 2027 presidential elections to use their right to make change. Since the protest started more than 6 weeks ago, human activists report that more than 50 people have lost their lives and hundreds more have been injured. Daniel Kijo in Dar es Salaam reporting for DD India.
Back to Asia. Thailand's opposition party Move Forward has a new name and leadership after Thailand's top court dissolved it on August the 7th. Move Forward has unveiled a new leadership and political vehicle, naming it People's Party as the new anti-establishment party. All 143 lawmakers have joined the new party under the leadership of 37-year-old Natapong Ruang Fan Youth. The People's Party is the third iteration of the Progressive Future Forward Party, which was dissolved for a campaign finance violation in 2020, triggering nationwide anti-government protests. Shifting focus to the United States now, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and Democratic opponent of his, Kamala Harris, will debate on September 10th on the ABC network, setting up the first face-to-face matchup between the rivals in what polls show is going to be an extremely close race. In a news conference at his Florida residence, Trump said that he wanted additional debates on September 4th and September 25th that would air on Fox and NBC networks.
I think it's very important to have debates, and we've agreed with Fox on a date of September 4th. We've agreed with NBC, fairly full agreement subject to them, on September 10th. And we've agreed with ABC on September 25th. So we have those three dates, and those networks, they're very anxiously awaiting that date and those dates. So we have September 4th, September 10th, and September 25th.
Kamala Harris, on her part, said that she will attend the ABC debate on September 10th. Talking to reporters, Harris said she looks forward to debating with Trump.
Well, I'm glad that he's finally agreed to a debate on September 10th. I'm looking forward to it, and hope he shows up.
Are you open to more debate?
I am happy to have that conversation about an additional debate for after September 10th, for sure.
Next, we take a look at what else is making news around the world. The Coast Guards of the Philippines and Vietnam completed their first ever joint exercises in Manila Bay on Friday. Ships from Vietnam and Philippines simultaneously used water cannons at a smaller vessel to simulate a firefighting activity. The crew also performed search and rescue exercises at a portion of the Manila Bay facing the South China Sea. At least 11 people died and 26 others were injured after a tragic bus accident was reported on the outskirts of Ankara in Turkey. The accident occurred near a village in the Polatlı district. The bus veered off the road and collided to a bridge's leg. The Montenegrin town of Kotor, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is facing problems like severe traffic congestion due to over-tourism. The city is overwhelmed by the influx of tourists and cruise ships, making the lives of residents increasingly difficult during the tourist season. The surge in mass tourism is also taking a toll on the local marine environment. And California welcomed a pair of pandas that arrived at the San Diego Zoo from China on Thursday, making their much-awaited public debut. The panda pair was brought to the U.S. under the 10-year International Giant Panda Protection Cooperation with the San Diego Zoo. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles, Facebook, X, that's Twitter, and Instagram at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.